Hello, good evening and welcome to Nationwide at 6 on NDTV. I am Ankit Tyagi. The war in Middle East is there now on its way to wind up. For the first time in the last 3 weeks, Donald Trump, the President of the United States, has hit a pause. Is the war going to end soon, or are there just being mind games playing out between America and Iran? We'll also on the broadcast shift focus, ladies and gentlemen, after this very big story that just came out about an hour back on the politics in India, where in West Bengal, there seems to be a Muslim front. Owaisi, his entry into West Bengal, can this now throw the spanner in the works for Mamata Banerjee, who is hoping for a re-election in West Bengal? We'll discuss this as well, but before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about our top story. US President Donald Trump has stated on Truth Social that Washington and Tehran had a very good and productive conversations aimed at full resolution of the escalating conflict in Middle East. Trump said he had ordered postponement of any planned strikes on Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for 5 days to follow and allow the talks to continue. The move marks the first public hint of possible off-ramp de-escalation since the war entered its fourth week. Responding to Donald Trump's latest post, Iranian state media said the US president backed down, fearing potential Iranian reprisal. I want to very quickly at this moment first bring you this breaking news which is coming in on the reaction from the Iranian side, because remember, Donald Trump had in fact put this out on Truth Social. Now Iranian Foreign Ministry has reacted to this and said there are no negotiations between Tehran and Washington. They have in fact denied the reports and the statement made by US President Donald Trump that there was fruitful conversation between both the countries. In fact, what sources in the Foreign Ministry of Iran are saying is that the statement by US President are part of an effort to lower energy prices by time for implementing his military plans. So we are seeing the impact of what is happening on this as far as the crude oil prices are concerned, which are down, and that is what the Iranians suspect. Let me very quickly go across to my colleague Vishnu Shom, who is joining us with more details on this. Vishnu, what does this tell you? Iranians, in fact, believe that this is just a smokescreen being created by Donald Trump to ease the, push the prices of the crude oil.
No, well, that's what they seem to be suggesting, and I think it's very important to understand that Trump often goes about and says things and discloses confidential items which other countries or partners may not be interested in letting known, publicly. And in this particular case, if Donald Trump has said that there are talks which are going on, it's perhaps true that there are talks which are going on. The Iranians may not be comfortable in talking about that process, and so they've issued a flat denial. The narrative is theirs. They can say whatever it is that they want. But I think at this juncture, it is common sense, right, for us to understand that there have been talks. I mean, look at what India has been doing. We've reached out as the Prime Minister to every leader in West Asia. Our Foreign Minister has reached out to his counterparts in so many countries. And obviously, there has been an effort in reaching out to the United States as well, if not by India, then certainly several other countries, saying that, look, we face a crisis which impacts billions. We cannot have a situation when gas and oil starts flowing from the Middle East to various countries, and therefore please do something. Now, whether or not it's Iran directly talking with the United States, or they are talking to somebody else is talking to the US, that's a smaller point right now. I think the larger message from Donald Trump needs to be evaluated carefully. Is this an olive branch? I do believe it is an olive branch. The Iranians, however, given what they've faced over the last 24 odd days, have skepticism. They don't really know whether to believe it or not. That's where we are. But this is the first big step, Ankit, towards, I would suggest, the beginning of the end of this war. Not going to happen overnight.
So this is the first off-ramp of sorts, as Vishnu is saying, olive branch being in fact extended towards the Iranian regime. The question also remains, and rightly so, as Vishnu is saying, though may not be important at this moment, who are they talking to? because the stated goal of the United States, Vishnu, was very clearly to, overthrow the regime, ensure that there is a new regime that comes in. In that context, Vishnu, it will be interesting to understand who does United States, at this moment is engaging with.
No, but they can be engaged with the foreign minister of Iran. They can be engaged with somebody else. One way or the other, the message is going through. The fact of the matter here is that there has been no regime change in Iran. They have eliminated leaders. There has been a fresh set of leaders who've come to the top. It is for America to figure out who they want to talk to, and I'm sure that can be sorted out at this stage. But I think it's this gesture. It gives hope to people across the world, and I think it is critical at this stage not to get into who has won and who has lost, which is why it's strange, and I would suggest silly, for publications out of Iran, their media, state-controlled, to be getting into this, that he's a devil and he's lost, and we're going to keep on going. Iran has been hammered. People have lost their lives. It's time to bring an end to this madness.
That's right, but many, in fact, experts also believe that the whole dialing up of this conflict just before this announcement of Donald Trump was somewhere, to their domestic audience, give them a sense that they are winning the war and then try and take this off ramp. It will be interesting what happens from here on. Let me also introduce Anushka Shankar, I beg your pardon, Anjana Shankar, our colleague who's joining us from Abu Dhabi at this moment. Yusuf Jalali is also joining us from Tehran. Yusuf, let me come to you first. We are just, in fact, hearing from the Foreign Ministry of Iran. They believe that this is just a smokescreen being created by Donald Trump to try and ease the pressure as far as the crude oil prices are concerned. The Iranians are, at this moment, doesn't seem to be in no mood to trust what the President of the United States is saying.
Well, of course, the Iranian Foreign Ministry issued a statement and denied any kind of diplomatic engagement and dialogue with the United States, saying that these are tactics for justifying further attacks, future attacks on Iran. And Iran framed it as another, of course, deadline, so to speak, or an ultimatum, 5-day ultimatum for Iran to try to come to the negotiating table or face the consequences. So Iran is interpreting these lines coming from Donald Trump as a means to justify more attacks on Iran, and of course to put the ball on the Iranian court to say and tell the world that it is the Islamic Republic that is refusing to engage diplomatically to try to diffuse tensions. So Iran has time and again said that this is not the war that was initiated by the Islamic Republic. Iran was sitting at the negotiating table. Iran was talking to the United States. The Islamic Republic was waiting for the next round of talks. And all of a sudden, instead of the next round of talks, Iran faced strikes from the Israelis and the Americans. So once again, Iran says that the United States bombed or bombarded the negotiating table. That is the exact line that was, of course, put by the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. So Iran does not trust the United States, and it is not willing to engage in any kind of talks with the U.S. while it is under bombardment by the Israelis and the Americans. Iran has time and again said that it is not going to negotiate while military pressure is over their heads. So right now, the Iranians are choosing to resist and fight back and reciprocate any strike with a proportionate response. And we have seen Iranians doing so. The Iranians have
Can I request you to stay on with me? Let me very quickly get in a word from Anjana as well. Anjana, the pressure as far as the Gulf countries are concerned on United States, because they are the ones, those who are bearing the brunt of the counter-attack of the Iranians, including UAE, Abu Dhabi and all the other Emirates. How is this, in fact, olive branch of sorts from Donald Trump is being seen and received? What are the kind of reactions that you are hearing in as far as UAE is concerned?
Thank you for having me, Ankit. Just quickly, as everyone in the panel has suggested, the the biggest de-escalation or an off-ramp that we've got. So definitely there is a sense of hope and relief. We are yet to hear official responses from Gulf countries, but at least the people that I'm talking to here and the general sense that I see on social media is definitely a relief. Because, this war which started with Trump's changing the goalpost from reducing the uranium enrichment of Iran, and then the regime change and the military degradation of all of that, the goalpost changing by the day, and then finally now ending at opening his ultimatum for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. And this 48-hour deadline was about to expire tomorrow, 3:45 around a.m., the local UAE time, where I am now. And just before that, today, it's a day where it is raining, there's heavy thunderstorms here, but, there is the ray of hope. So I would definitely say that this gives at least some room for negotiations, for diplomacy, when we thought all of that has ended and this war was slowly, kind of escalating, spiraling into a place where everything or nothing is off limits, because both the countries, both US president and Iran, in retaliation, both of them were threatening to strike the very infrastructure where civilian lives are dependent on, especially in the Gulf, with those specific vulnerabilities that Gulf countries have, whether it is with the desalination plants, drinking water, complete dependence on desalination. Those were the targets these leaders were talking about, and that pushes the war into a totally different terrain with throwing all international law and
and I'm sure there was this added pressure on United States from the partners in the Gulf region to try and de-escalate, because this has been going on for the last almost 4 weeks. Yusuf, let me ask you this. While the Iranian regime may be cautious at this moment to, let's say, this olive branch extended by Donald Trump, but the fact is that there is widespread destruction which has taken place in Iran. There have been so many lives which have been lost. Is there also somewhere a hope that this could, in fact, fructify, could go across, into some sort of an agreement where unnecessary loss of life of the places, of cities, the destruction could be stopped? Yusuf, can you hear me?
Sorry, I lost your question. I missed the question.
Yes, I was asking you, while the Iranian regime may be cautious about this olive branch which has been extended by Donald Trump, the fact is thousands of Iranians have lost their lives. There has been widespread destruction. Could this also some way be something that Iran could hold on to try and ensure that there is no more destruction of life and property in Iran?
Of course, for Iran, this war is existential. If it backs down, if it agrees to a ceasefire that would not guarantee future strikes, then this is going to be a Libya-style agreement or deal with the United States. And Iran has been saying all along that it is not going to engage in any kinds of talks that would be similar to the Libya-style agreement that saw Gaddafi being overthrown after agreeing with the Western hemisphere and leading to the destruction and elimination of the country's military and nuclear capabilities. So this is something that Iran has put a very thick red line around, a Libya-style agreement. So if Iran gives in to such an agreement, it would expect that the United States and the Western world would intervene and, of course, try to launch, for example, wage a coup d'etat or any kind of attempt to try to overthrow the Islamic Republic. So Iran is not going to give in to such agreement. And of course, if it now engages in negotiations with the United States, well, from the position of weakness, because Iran's military capability has been, of course, to a certain extent weakened, not eliminated, but weakened compared to the opening days of the conflict. Their ballistic missile storage and production facilities have been targeted. And of course, their drone program has been targeted. Their nuclear program has once again been targeted. The Natanz facility enrichment site was targeted. So Iran is not willing to engage in talks from the position of weakness. Okay. And for this is a fight that is existential. So it is now preferring to continue to resist instead of giving in to kind of diplomatic engagement that would see the Americans and maybe the Israelis putting further pressure in the future, military pressure on Iran, because Iran believes that any ceasefire would only strengthens the Americans and the Israelis and would give them some time to rebuild and gather forces to attack Iran once again.
Right. Next few hours are going to be very, very crucial and interesting to see how this in fact shapes up. Whether Donald Trump stays true to what he has said, how does Iran react? They are at this moment, cautious as far as this whole olive branch is concerned. We'll have to keep a very close eye on this. But first off ramp, as my colleague Vishnu was saying, in the last 24 days, gives a little bit of hope for ending this war. Thank you so much, Vishnu Shom, Yusuf Jalali, and Anjana Shankar for joining me on this story. I want to very quickly tell you, ladies and gentlemen, the pressure because of the Strait of Hormuz, some good news coming in there for India. This is NDTV Data Fire story. 2 more Indian ships have crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Both these tankers are carrying LPG. And I've transited using the Iran-started safe route with Indian naval escorts. In fact, this is the vessel position at 2 p.m. IST today. So Indian Standard Time, 2 p.m. These vessels that you can see have crossed over from the Strait of Hormuz, and both of them have gotten the approval of the safe corridor as far as Iran is concerned. This is a new circuitous route that has been created by Tehran inside Iran's territorial water. This was in fact done on Monday. As you would see, this data in fact giving you a sense, while the Jag Wasant tanker is loaded with LPG from Kuwait's Mina Al Amadi port, the Pine gas in fact has set sail from another port in United Arab Emirates. Both are located in the Persian Gulf last week now. So both of them are on their way. 2 Indian Navy warships believed to be frigates have also been spotted near the coast of Surport, and the warships that escorted similar oil and gas tankers in the recent weeks to Indian ports could also join these 2 very important ships on their journey towards India to ensure their safety. So this is some good news coming in. It will ease the pressure on the domestic markets as far as the LPG situation is concerned.